The first official stop on my quest to ride over 200 roller coasters in 1 year is Six Flags Magic Mountain in Valencia, California. In theory, this park could net me 20 roller coaster credits, which would be a fantastic way to kick off this challenge. So let's get started. I've decided that my plan is just to turn left whenever left is possible, and I'm going to do whatever I come to next. It's the new Revolution, or it's the classic Revolution. Maybe it's both the same. First ride down, not the most thrilling, but it's definitely a good warm-up ride for sure. As you can tell, I did not really have much to say about Revolution, and apparently I had literally nothing to say about Viper, which was the next coaster that I encountered. I'm starting to realize that this whole thing is as much about riding these coasters and exploring these parks as it is about learning how to actually effectively document this whole thing. It's been a learning process for sure, and note to self, hit record more often. At this point in the day, I wasn't collecting my reactions because I was feeling pretty underwhelmed by the whole experience. And I think I was starting to feel a little bit of a sense of regret for entering into this whole thing. If you recall from my origin story, going to Universal Studios is what invigorated my love of roller coasters. That entire experience was just so phenomenal. Yes, of course the rides were incredible, but it was really the whole package, the theming, the shows, the food. It was truly an unforgettable experience. So to go from Universal to Six Flags has definitely been a pretty strong reality check, and I know those of you out there that are really into theme parks are probably screaming at me right now like, Andy, you naive fool. Of course, Six Flags is going to pale in comparison to Universal. Six Flags is the Walmart, or maybe even the Kmart of the theme park world. It's the budget chain. Of course, it's not going to be as good. And fair enough, I knew it was not going to be on the same level as Six Flags, but either way, at this point in the day, just a mere 2 rides in to this entire journey, to this entire challenge, I started to question if this was all just a huge mistake. Was it a poor decision for me to spend all this money and get these season passes and start a YouTube channel to document this journey if all I was going to be doing was having repeats of this experience of just doing these so ho-hum, yeah, I guess those were fun kind of rides? The regret was real, and it was setting in, and I can't believe I reached that point so quickly. But then, my friends, I found Tatsu. Tatsu was so sick. These inverted rides where you're facing the ground really make you feel how much your life depends on these harnesses to work. When I did Superman at Six Flags over Georgia, like the whole ride I was scared, and this one, it just felt a little more secure. It felt like there was no give in that harness. And everyone's gonna rave about this big loop right here where you're kind of doing one of these moves and you just feel it in your face. Me personally, I was much more a fan of the corkscrews where all you see is just that open sky. There's several moments like that on this ride, and I am a huge fan of that. I prefer to be pulled out of my seat, those 0 Gs, as opposed to being pushed into my seat. Doing like the inside of a loop, it just doesn't do it for me, which I know is probably sacrilegious to say as a wannabe coaster enthusiast, but man, the corkscrews on this one. Oh man, Apocalypse was so sick. I was not expecting to love this ride as much as I did. I tend to think of wooden roller coasters as the kind that like really beat you the hell up, especially as a bigger guy. I'm usually right up against those seat dividers, so any kind of shake into that hard plastic like really digs into your thighs and your hip. There was ample padding in here. Love that for this ride. So it was actually very comfortable. One of the more comfortable rides I've done today, and also one of the faster rides I've done today. Granted, I still have a lot to go. I cannot wait to ride this one again. This one, dare I say so far my favorite? I dare say it.
I was planning to return on day 2 to document the theming of this ride, but spoiler alert, it was sadly closed when I returned. So let me just say this, Six Flags, they're not known for their theming or exciting queues, but I personally loved Apocalypse. I like that it felt like you were going through a haunted house on your way to the loading platform. There were these 2 young ladies that entered behind me that were so scared going through this thing, despite the fact that there are literally 0 jump scares, there's no actors, nothing jumps out at you, no animatronics. It's literally just darkness and some lightly spooky imagery, but I definitely felt this sense of dread and anticipation going through it. I love haunted houses, so I loved this. And these 2 young ladies, they actually turned around halfway through and never even went to ride the coaster because they were so scared of this queue. Now, this ride demonstrated the potential that Six Flags could have. I would love to see them embrace theming more, and that is exactly what they did on the next coaster that I found, much to my surprise, delight, and also confusion.
Why is the ride based off of Pimp My Ride significantly better than the ride based off of the Fast and the Furious, at least at Universal in Orlando? Shockingly good. That was a lot of fun. Having done 0 research on this, I was unaware of the fact that it was, like, I saw visually that it was 2 cars that race each other. But as you're like getting up and you're sitting in there and you see the other car next to you, you're like, oh, I guess there was a different line, or they split people at some point. I came through the Fast Pass, so maybe Fast Pass doesn't get the other side. I did not realize we were going to get a chance to be the other side. And so the fact that you're getting 2 rides in one essentially was a lot of fun. Nice trick. Love that. Super smooth ride. I love that the entire time you're doing it, you get to sort of see the other car, the other track running next to you. You're twisting all around each other, so it actually feels like you're doing a kind of a street race, which is what Fast and the Furious should have been. Exhibit, he done good. Gold Rush. Is it a great ride? No. Is it a fine way to spend 1 minute if you have no line to wait in whatsoever? I say yes. It seems like even the employees that are working that one know that ride is kind of a joke. They were making fun of it quite a bit as we were in line. They were joking about how slow it goes and how unthrilling it is. So it went a little faster than I was expecting it to based off of that. But I have to say that it was fine. But it was fine. It was totally fine. Would I ride it again? I don't know. There is a lap bar that comes right down on your thighs, and if you, like me, did something that resembles a leg day that makes the top of your thighs sore, it digs into it quite a bit, and I heard a lot of people exclaiming in pain as we were riding. It certainly was not comfortable for me for that reason alone. So buyer beware, your mileage may vary. Have you ever thought to yourself, this roller coaster seat is too comfortable for me? I would prefer this if I was riding on a bicycle seat. Well, Riddler's Revenge might be for you. Now, I personally have not ridden a coaster like this before, where you get in and essentially adjust the height. Like if you want to sit, you can sit. If you want to stand, you can stand. I was thinking, oh, this is fun. During the coaster, you get to like choose to stand up or sit down at certain points. Like we're in control. That's a lot of fun. Not the case. They will lock you in right before it rides. So if you're like me and you happen to be testing the limits of the seat and standing on your tippy toes, you will spend the whole ride on your tippy toes. But still, a very fun ride. My expectations were low just because I'm not a huge fan of the Riddler ride at Six Flags Over Georgia, my hometown park, and I could not have been more wrong because what a pleasant thing. Despite the seat very thrilling, very fun ride. This is definitely one that I would choose to ride every time I come here. Batman, also great, perhaps even better than Georgia. Now, I was able to snag one of those coveted front row seats, thanks in part to the inefficiency of Six Flags. I don't know why they don't have like the air traffic controllers asking people how many people in your party and putting them in appropriate rows so that each row of the coaster is in fact full. The amount of empty seats that I see flying by on so many of these coasters, especially Batman, it's very saddening and it's maddening, especially if you're like waiting to get into a seat and you're just watching all these empty things go by. I could do a whole video about that. Maybe I should. But when it was my time to ride, I noticed there was 2 empty seats in the front row, despite the fact that there was a line of about 20 people waiting to get in there. I walked up and I said, hey, are these 2 seats empty? Guy said, yeah. So hell yeah, there I was, front row, cut in front of like 20 people, legally and ethically. But man, what a bummer that all these empty seats go by. But I guess I was happy to benefit in this instance. But man, Six Flags really needs to do better in that regard. My favorite part of any roller coaster is that big drop. And I actually have to say that so far, none of the coasters that I've ridden today have given me that drop feeling. And this was the first time I had that, like that feeling of just being totally out of control and you are just strapped in and whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen. This ride gave me that, so I cannot wait to do that one again. I'm rushing around right now because we only got half an hour left and I know there's still a couple big rides that I have not even laid my eyes upon. So let's see if we can knock them out. All right, I had to abandon filming in order to get a couple last rides in, but Twisted Cyclops, probably my favorite ride at the park thus far. There's still a few I gotta get to, unfortunately. And ended out the night with Goliath, which is my favorite at Six Flags Over Georgia. I think I like it better there though, but much better branding here, and got that coveted double ride last of the night, empty seats, got to do the re-ride. Can't go wrong there. Not much to compare it to, but this is my favorite Six Flags.
That is the end of day 1, which means we are halfway through my visit to Six Flags Magic Mountain, and well past me, get some sleep in the van. Present me is going to explain the rules to this 200 coaster challenge that I'm on. If you do hear, and since this is my second video, you probably are, I am trying to ride 200 roller coasters in 1 year. So let's define what all of that means. Every ride must happen within a calendar year. So that's January through December. And since I did my first rides in February, I am already a month behind. I'm trying to play catch up. And as I'm starting this journey, I'm starting to learn a little bit more of the correct terminology that everyone likes to use. So in roller coaster world, whenever you ride a new coaster that you have not personally been on before, that counts as a new credit. So I'm trying to get 200 credits, but what counts as a credit? How do you define a roller coaster? I have to be honest, this seems like it should be like a relatively straightforward thing, but to my surprise, it turns out this is actually somewhat of a contentious thing in the roller coaster world. When I was personally trying to determine for myself like what counts as a coaster, what doesn't, what's a credit, what's not, I found this poll on the roller coaster Reddit, and I was surprised to see how much disagreement and deviation there was with the answers. A lot of the nuances of this won't apply to me yet, since I'm newish to all of this and I don't need to worry about like counting coasters that have been rebranded or maybe moved to a new park. But what about like the clone of a coaster? You know, since I have this Six Flags season pass, it seems like pretty much every park of theirs has a Batman coaster, a Superman coaster, a Riddler coaster, etc. Like, do those count if they're the exact same thing but in different locations? And what about dark rides? What about dueling coasters? And, you know, ultimately I just decided to keep it simple. This is supposed to be a fun thing for me. I don't want to stress about it too much. So I've been using this free app called Coaster Buddy to keep track of my credits, and I don't know if it's the best one out there. If you got a better one, let me know, but I decided that if it's on Coaster Buddy, it counts. If it's good enough, for Coaster Buddy, it is good enough for me. Okay, those are the rules of the challenge. Let's get back to the park.
Back at Six Flags Magic Mountain for day 2. Now this is a Monday. It is empty as hell, so I might even need this flash pass, but I am going to go and get all the rides that I wasn't able to squeeze in on day 1. Then we're gonna go back and ride the ones that I loved as much as possible to get the most out of this day. Maybe we'll even look at a show, eat some food. Who knows? We're gonna live it up. First time riding Scream. I have to say I had a blast with that. Is it the fastest coaster? No, but it was a lot of fun. Definitely went on longer than I was expecting it to. The fact that it wasn't that fast enabled me to enjoy those inversions a lot more, especially that first big loop right after that initial drop. So I had a good time with this. Is it in my top 5 for the park? Certainly not, but I'd be happy to ride this every time I came here. Two rides in with Twisted Colossus, and definitely beat me up a little bit, but I gotta say, firmly standing at my #1 ride at this park for sure. Man, I did it for the first time on day 1 at the end of the night, and we got a really nice side-by-side race. I didn't realize how rare that was, but apparently you do not always get that. And on this most recent ride, we had the absolute perfect timing. Both cars reached the top of the hill and dropped at the exact same time. So every zigzag we were hitting at the same time. It was so good. And man, that first drop is so good. It's just so good. I love it so much. And that is the best part of being in the back seat. Everything else though, front seat, amazing. My all-time favorite part of this entire ride is on the second track, on the green track. That inversion, it feels like you are upside down for so long, but you never feel like you're hanging there at all. That is so perfect when you're sitting in the front row. Excellent ride. Gonna try to hit that a couple more times before I leave. Also, shout out to the Twisted Colossus ride crew, because every time I've done it, they have been busting their butts to get people off and on as quick as possible to ensure that everybody does get that side-by-side race. So hats off to them, because a lot of the other rides here could take a page out of their playbook. All right, just finished up with Wonder Woman, and let me say it was the longest wait of the day because there's no flash pass for this one, at least not today. About a 50-minute wait, and after all that hype and all that build up, $100% worth it. I'm gonna say this is probably my top 3 for the park. Such a thrilling ride. That front row view, again, just phenomenal. Worth waiting for that specific seat as well. Man, what a blast. I'm so glad I got to ride that one. Funny thing though, right as we pulled into the station, or about 10 feet from pulling into the station to offload, the ride broke down. So we had to just sit there for several minutes, watching the clock tick down, going, there's one more ride I want to get to. I'm trying to get to X2. I hope that they've opened back up because they were closed for most of the day. So let's go see if I can squeeze that one in, check off all the coasters at this park. I had to make an executive decision. I was looking at that map. I saw X2 was very far away, way further than I thought it was, about a 10-minute walk. The park was gonna close in 4 minutes. So I had to sadly abandon my hopes of riding X2. They were closed. It was closed for the entire day until about the last hour or so. So X2 shall await until next time, along with a few others like the Superman ride. That being said, I was able to snag the very last ride of the day on Twisted Colossus, and it was fantastic as always. The station crew was nice enough to send an empty car up behind us so that we still got to have that race on the hill. That one remains my favorite in the park. So what are my overall thoughts on Six Flags Magic Mountain? Well, I had a fantastic time. You know, compared to my other Six Flags experience in Georgia recently, this was the far superior experience. and they just felt like they had their act together more. The employees seemed to care just a little bit more here. So it was just, everything was smoother this time around. Greater ride selection, much more thrilling rides. So I would say that for me, this was a winner. I would easily come back to this park. There's definitely a couple of coasters I would be extremely happy to ride again.
As I exit the park, it is now time to check in and see how I'm doing with my 200 coaster challenge. Of a potential 20 coaster credits I could have claimed for this park, I was only able to get 14 of them, and that does include Ninja, which apparently I totally forgot to document, but I thought it was a pretty fun ride. Of the remaining 6 coasters that I was not able to hit, 3 of them were kiddie coasters, and I think I was just kind of hesitating on those. I need to get better at just saying screw it, like let's get on there. The rest were all either closed completely both days that I were there, or closed for like large portions of the time that I was there, and that includes X2, which I know is pretty beloved by many. It's supposed to be very intense, so I am bummed that I missed that one, but I'll be back. And if we check the leaderboard, that now puts my grand total at 29 coasters for the year, well on my way to 200. To peel back the curtain a little bit, both of those days at Six Flags Magic Mountain were actually separated by a trip that I took up north to the Bay Area to go to California's Great America. So if you want to see if I fared any better up there than I did down at Six Flags, check out this video right here.